welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating. Personal transformation, those big mindset shifts, and maybe more importantly, the actual steps people take to make real change happen. We're pulling these insights from some fantastic content by the MILA and Leo English platform.
That's right. And it's great because for those of you working on your English, maybe especially if you're, just starting out, this deep dive has a sort of double benefit. You get these really profound ideas for improving your life, but you also pick up some useful English vocabulary and phrases, things you can use to talk about these ideas yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, our whole mission here is to kind of boil down that core wisdom, make it easy to get your head around, and show you how understanding this stuff can genuinely impact your growth and help with your English comprehension, your fluency. It all started with this central question, the source material.
Mm-hmm.
Why do some people totally manage to turn their lives around, hit amazing goals,
while others just seem stuck,
right,
repeating the same old patterns?
Yeah. Exactly. It's a question I think loads of us have thought about. When you see someone make this huge change and you wonder, was it just luck? Or do they know some secret?
Mm-hmm. And it often feels like a secret, doesn't it? But if you're listening now, maybe wondering how you can find that spark or even just jumpstart your English learning, well, this deep dive is kind of your shortcut to understanding that secret. We're aiming to make these sometimes complex ideas really clear, really actionable for you. So let's start with something that maybe feels a bit counterintuitive when we talk big changes. The massive power of small, consistent actions.
Right. It's fascinating, isn't it, that big transformations aren't usually these lightning bolt moments, not one giant decision.
No, exactly. The content we looked at makes it super clear. Real change is all about the little changes we make every day.
That makes so much sense. We often search for that one big thing,
yeah,
but it's the small stuff adding up. I mean, I remember thinking learning English was just impossible. So many words, grammar rules, felt overwhelming. But then, just like the source material puts it, little by little, things started making sense. It connects.
It really does. And this idea, it ties straight into the 1% rule. You've heard of that?
Vaguely, yeah.
What?
Improving tiny bits each day.
Exactly. Just 1% better each day. And because of compounding, that means you're 37 times better in a year, which is pretty staggering. The clever part isn't just the math, though. It's how it bypasses our resistance. That 1% feels so small, almost insignificant.
So your brain doesn't fight it as much.
Precisely. It doesn't register as a big, scary change, so you can build momentum almost without noticing.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. And it immediately makes me think of James Clear's Atomic Habits. That comes up a lot in this kind of discussion. The whole idea that small changes may not seem big at first, but they redefine who you are over time. Building identity.
Exactly. It's about becoming the kind of person who does those things. Think about it. Reading for just 10 minutes. Practicing one new English phrase for 5 minutes, or swapping one negative thought for a positive one. These are those tiny steps. The MILA and Leo platform actually shared this great example. Someone became fluent in English just by listening to podcasts every day.
Wow, just podcasts.
Yeah, just consistent small steps. No massive, overwhelming study plan at the start. Just doing that one thing consistently.
That's really motivating. Okay, so the big takeaway here for you listening is pretty clear. Small, consistent actions lead to huge results over time. If you're wondering where to even begin, just pick one small habit today.
Right, just start somewhere.
But, okay, even knowing that, change isn't always smooth sailing, is it? What about those common struggles, the things that, keep us feeling stuck even when we want to change?
That's a really crucial point, because the idea of change is exciting, right? A fresh start. But the reality is many people don't actually follow through because, change is hard. The content we reviewed highlights 4 really common reasons people get stuck. First up is the big one, fear of failure.
Oh, yeah. That what if I try and fail?
Voice. Exactly. But the counter to that, which is so important, is, but what if you try and succeed? Yeah. I mean, think about it. Every single successful person has failed, probably many times. The difference is they just kept going.
So it's about persistence through failure, not avoiding it.
Absolutely. Then the second reason is a lack of direction. People know they want something different, maybe a better job, maybe better English, but they don't know where to start. They get caught in this trap of needing the perfect plan before they take a single step.
Right. The analysis paralysis. If I don't know steps 1 through 10, I can't do step 1.
Exactly that. And third, there's that insidious negative self-talk. The phrase is, I'll never be good at this, or especially for language learners, I'm just not a language person.
Yeah.
Those thoughts literally stop you before you even begin. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, if you tell yourself you can't, you probably won't even try properly.
And the final one, a really big trap, is waiting for motivation. People think, I'll start learning English properly when I feel motivated, or I'll go to the gym when I feel like it. But here's the key insight from the material. Motivation comes after action, not before.
Oh, interesting. So you don't wait for the feeling, you act, and then the feeling comes.
Yes. The act of doing something, even something small, is what creates the motivation to keep going. You get a small win, it feels good, you want to do it again.
That really clicks. I remember an example from the MILA Leo content. Someone was putting off a personal challenge, always waiting for the perfect moment. And of course, it never arrived until they just started, took one tiny step. And then things started to fall into place.
That's a perfect illustration. And it's so true for learning English, too. You might feel you're not good at it. But the only way to get better is to actually start speaking, start practicing, even if it's clumsy at first. So understanding what's holding you back, fear, lack of direction, negative talk, waiting for motivation, that's really the first step to breaking free. Once you see the barrier, you can start to dismantle it.
Okay, so we've identified the barriers. Now let's shift to something even more fundamental. Mindset, how we think about change.
Yes, this is huge, because you can have the best plan, the smallest steps, but if your underlying mindset isn't aligned, it's like trying to swim upstream.
So what's the key concept here?
It really boils down to growth mindset versus fixed mindset. This comes up a lot. A growth mindset is the belief that I can improve. You see effort as the path to mastery. Challenges are opportunities, not threats, especially with something like language learning.
Okay, and the fixed mindset.
That's the belief that your abilities are, well, fixed, set in stone. You think, I'm either good at languages or I'm not, or I'll never be good at this. It leads to avoiding challenges.
That's a massive difference in outlook. What about how our brain actually works with this? Is there like a biological basis?
There is, actually. It relates to something called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Think of it like a filter or maybe a search engine in your brain. It directs your attention to things that match what you're focusing on. It's why when you decide you want a certain type of car, you suddenly see it everywhere, or learn a new English word.
And then you hear it constantly. Right. Okay.
Exactly. Your RAS is filtering your reality based on your focus. So if you constantly tell yourself, I can't learn English, or this is too hard.
Your brain looks for proof that you're right. It filters in the difficulties and filters out the small successes.
Precisely. It finds evidence to confirm your belief. But if you shift your focus, if you tell yourself, I am improving every day, or I'm getting better at speaking English, your brain starts looking for that evidence instead. It focuses on the progress, the opportunities. It's about consciously directing that filter.
Wow. Okay, so it's about training your brain. But how do we actually do that? It sounds a bit abstract. Are there practical things?
Definitely. The content highlights 3 powerful techniques. First, affirmations. Simple positive statements you repeat to yourself. I am getting better at English every day. I am capable of achieving my goals. It sounds simple, but it helps reprogram those thought patterns.
Okay, affirmations. What else?
Second, visualization. Actively picturing yourself succeeding. Imagine yourself having that fluent conversation in English or reaching that fitness goal. Seeing it vividly can actually trick your brain into believing it's possible, making it more likely to happen.
So you kind of create the reality in your mind first.
In a way, yes. And third, don't underestimate gratitude practice. Regularly focusing on what you do have, what is going well, it trains your brain to scan for the positive, to see opportunities instead of just dwelling on the problems or challenges.
Affirmations, visualization, gratitude. Got it.
Yeah, it's not magic. It's really just about training your brain to work for you instead of against you.
That's a huge takeaway.
Okay.
So we've got small steps, overcoming barriers, building the right mindset. But what of that other big hurdle, just starting, that feeling of waiting for the right moment?
Ah, yes, the perfect time trap. It gets so many people. Here's the blunt truth from the source material, and it's important. You will never feel fully ready.
It feels, yeah, very true.
Yeah.
And kind of liberating, actually. It takes the pressure off needing everything to be perfect first.
Exactly. You don't have to wait for some mythical feeling of readiness. The key insight here is progress comes before confidence. You don't feel confident, then start speaking English. You start speaking English, make progress, and then you start feeling confident.
Right. I remember an example they used. Someone was really hesitant to speak English, terrified of making mistakes.
They kept waiting until they felt good enough But the longer they waited, the harder it got.
So what happened when they finally just did it?
Well, once they started talking, making those mistakes, they realized something crucial. Mistakes weren't the end of the world. In fact, they were essential, part of learning. Each conversation, even the imperfect ones, built a tiny bit more confidence. They weren't perfect, but they were moving forward. And that's what counts.
And that is absolutely key. This connects to another idea the MILA and Leo content stresses. Done is better than perfect.
Oh, absolutely. A classic. People delay starting that project or practicing that skill because they want it flawless from the get-go. But the reality is imperfect action is always better than no action. Always. The momentum you build just by doing something is far more valuable than waiting indefinitely for perfection that might never come.
If you wait for perfect, you just wait forever. Whether it's English, a workout, a life change, just begin. Those messy first steps are what lead to improvement.
Couldn't agree more.
So, maybe a little challenge for you listening right now. Think about one thing you've been putting off because it doesn't feel like the right time or you don't feel ready. Could be practicing English for 10 minutes. Could be starting that workout. Could be sending that email. And then just take one small step. Today, not tomorrow. Today.
Yes, because that action creates momentum. And momentum builds confidence. It's a positive cycle. And, speaking of momentum and cycles, have you ever thought about how much our environment influences all this?
Oh, hugely. Like the people around us, the stuff we watch or read, it all seeps in, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's often underestimated. The people you surround yourself with, the content you consume, and the mindset you adopt all play a huge role in shaping your life. That's a core idea here.
There's that saying, isn't there? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly that one. And it holds a lot of truth. If you're constantly around negative people, complainers, people who aren't growing, it's incredibly hard to maintain your own positive momentum. But flip that, surround yourself with positive, motivated, supportive people, and their energy, their habits, they start to rub off on you.
That makes total sense. So how can we be more deliberate about creating an environment that actually helps us grow, whether it's personal stuff or, say, getting better at English?
Well, the content suggests a few practical strategies. First, actively follow inspirational people. This could be authors, speakers, positive social media accounts. Curate your input. Fill your feed with things that lift you up and make you think rather than drag you down.
Okay, curate your influences. Makes sense.
Second, join communities. Online learning groups are fantastic for this. You can find groups specifically for English learners, book clubs, personal development forums. Being part of a group with shared goals is incredibly motivating, especially for language learning. Having people to practice with who get the struggles, that's invaluable.
Yeah, that shared journey element.
Definitely. And third, just as important as adding the positive is reducing exposure to negativity. Be mindful of how much time you spend with chronic complainers. Maybe limit doom scrolling or negative news if it drains you. Protect your energy and attention.
That really reminds me of another MILA and Leo example. Someone felt totally stuck with their English progress. Then they joined an online English learning community. And suddenly, having people to practice with, share tips, celebrate small wins, it just changed everything for them.
That's a perfect illustration. The right environment acts like a tailwind, making it easier to move forward. So maybe a question for you listening to reflect on. Who are those 5 people you spend the most time with? Are they genuinely supportive of your growth? Or are they maybe holding you back, even unintentionally? If it's the latter, perhaps it's time to consciously seek out more inspiration.
And speaking of tools for growth, sometimes just having the right words, the right vocabulary in English can help us express these ideas about mindset and goals more clearly.
Absolutely. And that's something the MILA and Leo English platform often incorporates directly into their lessons. They have sections called vocabulary breakdown. The idea is to take useful, maybe intermediate level words and phrases related to these topics, explain exactly what they mean, and crucially, show you how to use them naturally in conversation. So it's not just abstract learning, it's giving you the practical language tools to talk about your own journey of change and improvement in English, especially helpful if you're a beginner building that confidence.
That practical application is so important. Okay, so if we had to distill everything we've talked about today, what's the single most important takeaway for someone listening?
I think it boils down to this. You genuinely have more control over your life and your direction than you probably think. It's not about massive leaps. It's about small, consistent changes, deliberately cultivating that growth mindset, and consciously shaping a supportive environment. Those 3 things together, they can absolutely transform your life.
That's powerful. And it's a journey, isn't it? Progress doesn't happen instantly, but every single step, no matter how small, gets you closer. And hey, don't forget, the MILA and Leo English platform offers a free PDF guide related to this kind of content. It's apparently packed with practical exercises to help you actually apply these ideas. Key takeaways, comprehension questions, even grammar exercises to build your English confidence. Worth checking out.
Definitely. And we'd genuinely love to hear from you, too. Maybe let us know in the comments what's one small change, just one thing you're thinking of making today after hearing this.
Yeah, we'd love to know. And if you found this deep dive useful, please do subscribe, maybe share it with a friend who could benefit, and leave us a review. Let's keep growing together in our lives, and definitely in our English.
Absolutely.
And just one final thought to leave you with. As you think about everything we've discussed, how could you start using English not just as something to learn, but as an active tool for your own personal growth? Maybe using it for those daily affirmations we talked about, or visualizing your success in English, or even using your improving skills to find those supportive online communities. Something to ponder.